Sri Gurubhyo Namaha children, you are welcome for online class. Class 12, it is your 6th unit poem, The Incident of French Camp, written by the poet Robert Browning. Okay children, here I will just give the starting of the poem and a gist of it. The incident of the French camp, an actual incident, the war between France and Austria. So, the war which had been taken place between Austria and the French. So, the France people and the Austria had a war, and Napoleon was leading the army of French, and here the gist is a small incident. There was a war, and that war between France and Austria, a young boy, a young soldier, he just comes and narrates to Bonaparte, you know Napoleon Bonaparte, and he is a central figure here, and the boy, the heroic boy who is a young soldier, who is very young, and he joined the army, and he was just went and fought, and he was attacked by the enemy, but they didn't leave the place. They just conquered the Ratisbon, and then they got, he was just the person who hoists the flag, and at last he comes and tells the information, gives the message to the Napoleon that they have just conquered the place. And here he was at the stage of dying, and he had been shot dead, shot by the enemies, and he are not opening, he is just tightening his mouth, because if he opens his mouth, the blood will come and it will be known to the emperor. And as he want to give the correct message, what he want to give to the emperor Napoleon, and then he want to die. So he was very patriotic, and he was very loyal to the nation and to France people and to the leader, and he comes and conveys a message that they conquered the Ratisbon place, and he was telling that he was the person who hoisted the flag of his nation. France's flag had been hoisted with the bird, and he was just telling, and after telling he just dies. This is a small incident, and you know the poetic mind of Robert Browning, he made this small theme as a poem, and he was a monodramatic person, and he had just made as a dramatic, as a monodramatic, is made as a poem, and we have 5 stanzas of poem, and it is so enjoyable, and we can enjoy now. Yeah, you can see the war field, how it will be. So, your incident of the French camp by Robert Browning. So, it has been written by Robert Browning, and you can see in the picture how the war and the battlefield will be. So many of cannon had been thing, and they were having sword, and they were just having their thing, and everywhere the cloud of smoke is there, and you know battery smoke is there, and you can see how the war field is. And here this is the situation. Okay. So we will see about the poet Robert Browning, 7th May 1812 to 12th December 1889. So his lifetime was 7th May 1812 to 12th December 1889. Was an English poet and a playwright and a dramatist. Mastery of dramatic monologue. So he was a mastery of dramatic monologue, and this poem is written in that dramatic monologue. And he belongs to the Victorian period. He belongs to the Victorian period, and he was educated at home. And he done a short course in London University for Greek. So he done a short course in Greek in a London University. The famous books of him, The Ring and the Book, it is an epic, and dramatic personae made him leading English poet. So, he was best known, and here the other things have been given. He was born in Camberwell, a suburb of London, on 7th May 1812. He was educated mainly at home, but he attended a short course in Greek at London. Okay, children? His poems are known for their irony. So, he was very specialized in irony, characterization, drama humor, social commentary, historical settings, and challenging vocabulary and syntax. So, he was very good at this all. So, he was well known for his poem, and for the poem contains irony. So, the poem will be having ironies, characterization, dark humor, social commentary, and historical settings, and challenging vocabulary and syntax. So, he was well versed in this all. It developed a unique form of conversational and rhythmic verse. So, he was developed a unique form of conversational unrhythmic verse. So, you will be just having a conversational type, and it will be unrhythmic verses. The collection of dramatic personae and the long book length. So, it is a big lengthy book and poem, and it is called as epic. So, epic means a lengthy poem with a dramatic monologue, and he wrote that book, and it is dramatic personae. So, that was his. And poem The Ring and the Book made him a leading British poet. By 1881, in recognition of his outstanding contribution to literature, a literary society called Society, that is Browning Society. So, the literary people gave a name for him as Browning Society. So, he had made so much in the literature, and he was a famous and well known person. Okay, we will go for the gist of the poem. Napoleon was standing on a little mound eagerly looking towards Ratisbon. So, here what is the situation the poem is written? Napoleon was the leader, and he was the head of the France warriors, and he was just mounted on some hill, and he was standing stretched, and he was watching what is happening in the war, and if anything happened, he had to go. So, he was just keenly observing. So, this French army had been led by, Napoleon Bonaparte was the head, and Jean Lannes was a person, and he was a military commander of that French army, and first Duke of Montelo. He was a first Duke of Montebello, and Prince of Suez. He was a Prince of Suez, and he was a commander for the army, and he is leading the army on French side to attack Austria and conquer that. So, for that purpose they were going, and here who is standing? Napoleon was the head lead of that, and he was just standing on the hill and observing what is happening. So, Napoleon was standing on a little mound eagerly looking towards Ratisbon. So, they want to go and attack Ratisbon city, and they have to conquer it. He was seriously thinking of capturing Ratisbon. So, what is the purpose of him? He was seriously thinking of capturing Ratisbon. Suddenly, he saw a rider galloping his horse towards him. So, he was very seriously thinking of capturing Ratisbon, and that time suddenly he saw a rider galloping his horse towards him. The rider was mortally wounded. He was wounded very severely, and he is going to die. That was the situation. Yet, he conveyed the news of victory. So, he came and conveyed the message as victory. So, he conveyed that, and he died. When Napoleon heard the news, his plans soared up like fire. So when Napoleon heard the news, his plans soared up like fire. He was very happy and he was flying somewhere and he was achieved his goal and capturing that and conquering it. So he felt very happy and there was a fire in him. At the same time, suddenly his eyes were softened, it became soft when he saw the soldier severely wounded. He felt like a mother eagle which looked at his wounded eagle in a helpless manner. He asked the soldier if he was wounded. So here very good comparison had been made by the poet Browning, Robert Browning. So he says he felt his mother eagle which looked at his wounded eaglet in a helpless manner. You know that when an eagle or a eaglet is just falling down and it has got wounded, so you know the mother eagle will be feeling, their feeling we can't express. So like that Napoleon had a feeling. So the poet compares the eagle love and affection for the eaglet and how when it is wounded and it's going to die or it is dying, how the feeling of an eaglet will be. Like that Napoleon felt on the soldier. He asked the soldier if he was wounded. And what was the answer from the soldier? The soldier replied that he was killed and fell beside the emperor. So I think you understand the central theme of the poem. So here the poet Robert Browning made the imagination and he made his own talented of his words and he made a verse and it is of 5 stanza. We are going to see that and it is very clear. The central theme of poem is here Napoleon is eagerly waiting for what is happening to the Ratisbon because he sent soldiers to attack it and to conquer it and he was eagerly waiting. He wanted the message that they conquered, that must be the message he is waiting. At that time suddenly a boy, young soldier was just coming, galloping a horse and coming and he observes and he waits and when he comes here the soldier was very loyal and he was very patriotic and he was wounded severely, he is going to die but he was capturing his life and just galloping on the thing and he wanted to convey the message to Napoleon that they won the battle and they have victory and they captured and conquered and he was the person to hoist the flag of the nation there with the eaglet. So he wanted to tell that. So here that is the message, our central theme and this had been a small theme, this had been explained very clearly and very expressively by Robert Browning with his words. Let us see what it is. So Napoleon Bonaparte, he was born on 1769 and he died on 1821. Okay, who is this Napoleon Bonaparte? Napoleon Bonaparte from 1769 to 1821 was originally an officer in the French army, became the army chief and a legendary warrior who later known for his military skill and genius. The poem, The Incident of the French Camp, narrates an actual incident in the war in 1809. Between France and Austria, led by Napoleon. Napoleon was standing on a little mound, eagerly looking towards Ratisbon. His mind was oppressed with anxious thoughts and he said to himself that all his ambitious plans would come to nothing if Lens failed to storm Ratisbon. What do you mean by storm here? Storm means a sudden attack on some place on war. So here who had been sent as a commander? Lens. His name is Jean Lens and he was a military commander and first Duke of Montebello and Prince of Sales. He was the person and he was leading the French army and he want to attack the place in Austria, the city called Ratisbon, and they have to capture that place and they have to hoist their flag and they have to conquer that place and they have to victory over. If that fails, everything will go wrong. So here he is worried, Napoleon is worried and he is just watching that. Okay. The poem describes an act of chivalry, gallantry, patriotism and sacrifice on the part of a young French soldier. So a young boy, a young French soldier was just giving his life for the nation. So that had been very clearly explained by Robert Browning in this poem. So here he says the poem describes an act of chivalry, gallantly and patriotism and sacrifice. So you can take 4 moral lesson from the young boy or a young soldier, that the chivalry, that is a bravery of him, and gallantry and patriotism and his life sacrifice for the nation. So you can learn these 4 moral things from this poem, and that is the thing on the part of a young French soldier. Okay children, I just give you the thing and we'll go for stanza wise. The poet Robert Browning narrates an incident at the French camp in the War of 1809. When this war took place, it took place on 1809 between France and Austria in a dramatic version. So this poem has been taken in a dramatic version and it describes the brave action of a valiant soldier whose heroic devotion to duty and his soldier, whose heroic devotion to duty and his pride in its inspiring and worthy of administration. During the attack of the French army of Ratisbon. So the French were attacking the Ratisbon city of Austria. At that time, how the thing was that had been dramatized by the poet. Napoleon was anxious about the result. Were defending Ratisbon with a great determination and courage. Napoleon was watching the war standing on a hill or a mound near the battlefield. All of a sudden, a rider appeared from the closed smoke and dust. Riding at a great speed, jumping and leaping, he approached the mound where Napoleon stood. As he came closer, the narrator noticed that the rider, a young boy, was severely wounded. But the rider showed no sign of pain and smiling in joy and jumped off the horse and gave the happy news of victory to the emperor. He explained with pride that French had conquered Ratisbon and he himself had hoisted the flag of France. When Napoleon heard the news, his plans soared up like fire. His eyes softened when he saw the soldier was severely wounded. Like a caring mother eagle, the emperor asked him if he was wounded. The wounded soldier replied proudly that he was killed and died heroically. So this was the content of the poem. And let us see the poem, each and every line, children. You know, we French stormed Ratisbon a mile or so away. On a little Mount Napoleon stood on a storming day with the neck out thrust. You fancy how, legs wide, arms locked behind, as if to balance the prone brow, oppressive with its mind. Children, you were very clear, you know. So the poet starts with you know. We French stormed Ratisbon. What do you mean by stormed? You know means you know people, you're knowing it. What had happened? They started a war. Yeah, we French stormed. What do you mean by stormed? Stormed means sudden war or a sudden battle. Or sudden attack. So you can take stormed Ratisbon means a sudden attack on Ratisbon. It is a place. Ratisbon is a place in Austria. It is a city in Austria. So here the French people want to attack Austria. So if they want Tamil Nadu, they first go to the capital. So like that, this is a city and it is a capital of it or a center place of Austria, and they want to attack and conquer and they want to hoist the flag. So it is very clear, children. First line. A mile or so away. So here Napoleon is standing on a hill a mile away. He is just waiting for the result, whether it is failure or it is conquered, whether it is a victory or a failure. So here they planned and he was want a result of it, and so eagerly waiting for the result on a hill a mile away. So a mile or so away on a little mound. You know what is the meaning of mound? It is a small hilltop. So who is standing there? Napoleon. On a little mound, Napoleon. So a mile or so away on a little mound, on a little hill, Napoleon is waiting. And he is standing and eagerly waiting for the result. He sent to the French camp to attack the Austria, the Ratisbon city, and he was eagerly waiting there. Stood on a storming day. So here what do you mean by storming day? No, always the war time is considered as a storming day, or you will be saying as a winter day. You know that in summer we will be harvesting and we will be doing, and on spring autumn and all we will be doing, we will be enjoying. But a winter or a stormy day is compared to a war where we will have starvation. So here this has been explained as storming day. They are having a war. So stood on or storming day. So they were on war. They were having a battle, and he sent the French camp. And you know the leader's mind. Suppose you just think over, we having a corona period now, and what will the leaders of the nation will be? They have to protect the nation. And they have to, the same thought also was there for Napoleon. So what he want? He want the soldiers to be saved safely, and they have to attack and get the nation. So that was his mind. And eagerly waiting for the result, a positive result. With the neck thrust. You know, sometimes a soldier will be very bold enough, and there will be just the neck will be very stretched and forward, and eagerly waiting, keenly observing. There is no movement in his neck. Very erect and straight he was keeping and just watching the war field. With the neck out thrust, you fancy, just imagine. Fancy means here, imagine. You have to imagine. So you have to imagine. Your imagination you have to bring, fancy. That means you just imagine the situation, how Napoleon is standing. You just think over someone is admitted in the hospital in a critical situation, and outside the person, how they will be. They will be eagerly waiting that their relatives must get cured, and they have to come and they have to survive. The same feeling Napoleon is having, and he is keeping his neck erect, and he was waiting eagerly for the result, positive result. And here you fancy how, the poet tells you very clearly, you fancy how means you imagine how it will be. You imagine that, how he is standing. So he says that he is just erect, his neck is thrust and it is erect, and he says that you imagine, you fancy now, you just think in your mind how he is standing. So that was the word description or something which the power and utilization of the poet's mind. Legs wide, arms locked behind. Just think over, you know, in a stand at his position, legs wide, he was standing legs wide, neck erect and eagerly waiting for the result. Arms locked behind, arms locked, you know, a soldier, how he will be standing. Usually there will be in a attention position, they will be like this. And in a stand at his position, here who is standing? Napoleon is standing and eagerly observing what is happening in the war field, and he wants the result, and the eagerness is in the mind. Okay. As if to balance the prone window. What do you mean by prone? prone brow, inclined brow. Sometimes if you want some positive result, or what will be having, suppose the result today, when somebody is saying your result, then your eyebrow will be going in inclined, what very mark will be, so that will be, you know that you will be passing. But you will be waiting, your friends all got their marks and they are going to utter your mark, and how your feeling would be? The same way. As if to balance the prone brow. What do you mean by oppressive? What do you mean by oppressive? Very harsh, domineering. You will be domineering and very harsh. Harsh. So with its mind. Children, we have completed the first stanza and we will be continuing the second stanza in the second part. Thank you children. Until bye, till see you.